Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call this meeting to order with the singing of our national anthem. If you can rise if you're able. Thank you. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all of us command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, a true north, strong and free, from far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. We would like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa of the Three Fires Confederacy. Councillor Post.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stowe.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to take a moment to wish everybody a happy Holi. For those who are unaware, Holi is a traditional Hindu festival known as the Festival of Colors, and it is celebrated to mark the arrival of spring after a long winter, so I thought it was a really great way to start off our meeting with a happy Holi.
Thank you, Councillor Post. This meeting is being aired on public television and/or streamed live and may be taped for later public broadcast or webcast. Your name is part of the public record and will be included in the minutes of this meeting. To avoid disruptions during our meeting, we would appreciate if members of the audience would please turn off or mute your cell phones or other personal digital devices. Orangeville Town Council welcomes and encourages members of the public to comment on matters of interest to them. I encourage delegates to address their remarks to the issue at hand and refrain from commenting on individuals or organizations. Delegates are cautioned that derogatory or inappropriate remarks may constitute slander and could potentially lead to legal action against them. If such comments are made, the delegate will not be permitted to continue speaking, and the comments will not be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. We ask that you please refrain from applause, booing, or other audible demonstrations of support or opposition in order to be respectful to those with opposing views. Okay, so first issue, we had a closed session earlier this evening, Town Council, and we're going to rise and report. There are a number of issues that we discussed. I'm just going to read them quickly. Confidential verbal report from Ed Brennan, CAO, and Rob Kokok, President of Orangeville Hydro, regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, public office holders, that be received, and that a confidential verbal report from Councillor Andrews regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, public office holders, be received, and that a confidential report, CPSCL 2020-08, regarding personal matters and about an identifiable, including municipal or board employees, public office holders, be received, and that a confidential report, CMS EDC 2020-005, regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, proposed property acquisition be received. We also deferred a matter regarding Mr. Brennan's, regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. So may I have a motion to receive all of those? Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Sherwood. May I have a vote on that? All in favor? Thank you. I'm sorry, let's just do that. It was to be received and that staff proceed as directed during the meeting. My apologies. All in favor? Thank you. All right, item number 9 is adoption of minutes of previous council meeting. May I have a recommendation to receive the minutes as approved, public meeting minutes of January the 27th, again, a closed council meeting of January 27th, and a regular closed meetings of February the 10th. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, I just have to note that there was one correction made to the regular council minutes on the last page with respect to spelling matter, with respect to transit.
Okay, thank you. And that was these previous council meeting minutes or this one?
For the February 10th meeting.
February 10th. There was a correction, a spelling mistake. Duly noted, thank you. We have a motion to receive. Deputy Mayor McIntosh, second for Council Peters. All in favor? All right, we're on to presentations, petitions, and/or delegations. Up first are the folks from Primacare Living Solutions, Jill Knowlton, Chief Operating Officer. Ms. Knowlton.
Now I have to be able to advance the slides, though. How do I advance the slides?
I don't know. You can ask the question.
Okay. How do I advance the slides?
No, advance the slide.
You can, let me put it in full screen. Oh, sorry, thank you. Then with this one, you go back in. Okay, thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Thank you for having us this evening. Matthew Melchior, the president of Primacare, is with me to introduce you to a potential long-term care home and campus of care for Orangeville. Our company is called Primacare, and we have a long history of providing long-term care services in Ontario. We currently own and operate 3 long-term care homes, and we have 3 managed homes that we operate for other long-term care operators. We also were very fortunate in 2018 to receive a new bed award from the Ministry of Long-Term Care, and for a 192-bed long-term care home as part of a campus of care in Waterdown, Ontario. We have over 30 years of operating long-term care homes with the highest regard. Yes. Oh, sorry. Speak closer? Sure. Is that better? We wait and see. Is that better? Okay, thank you. Pardon me. We have over 30 years of experience in operating long-term care homes, and we have one of the highest ratings with the Ministry of Health and long-term care in the province in terms of quality and compliance. And I think more importantly is we have a 95% satisfaction rating with our residents and our families in our homes. Primacare has led on innovation and research in the province in long-term care, and we have really pushed the forefront on particularly dementia care by implementing the butterfly model of care in Ontario long-term care. We have only the 2nd fully accredited butterfly home in all of Ontario. There's a lot of interest around the butterfly. You may have seen there's been a lot of media and a lot of global attention on the butterfly model. As I move through the presentation, I'll spend a little bit more time explaining that to you. We've also received a very large grant from the Centre for Aging and Brain Health Innovation at Baycrest to study virtual reality as a therapy in moderate to advanced dementia, and it's showing very promising results in terms of reducing the requirement for medication, reducing behaviors, and increasing people's ability to socially engage by eliminating depression and agitation. And our homes also are in the final year of a 3-year project to earn their Best Practice Spotlight Organization designation from the RNAO, and that is funded through the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, and that's quite an aggressive project to have all homes go through the BPSO process at one time. I don't want to spend too much time on demand because I think everybody's aware that long-term care is a critical shortage in the province. Today, there are over 35,000 potential residents waiting for admission to long-term care. Often those residents never get off of that wait list because residents who have a priority rating, those who are waiting in hospital, will take precedence over somebody who's waiting in the community. So it's a very, very long list, and many times people do not get off that list. In this particular area, there's an immediate need for 200 beds just to meet current demand today, and that's in the Dufferin-Caledon sub-region. You have a very interesting population growing of those over 75 plus, and that's the number that we use to actually gauge the number of long-term care beds that are required. The average wait time for a basic bed, so a bed where you would have, or a room that you would share with another resident, is about 5 years in this area. And so what that causes then is people to go outside of their home communities to access a long-term care bed. And again, you know, I've been fortunate to have a 38-year career, and I can tell you over the last couple of years, I've heard some of the most difficult stories from people where, you know, people have had to go as far as Thunder Bay to access a long-term care bed. You can imagine the stress that that causes on that individual going into leaving their home and going into long-term care, as well as the stress it causes on the family when they can't be close and provide the support. The other issue that happens with this critical shortage of long-term care beds, and we all know about, or have heard about, I'm sure, hallway healthcare, where our hospitals get backed up with people waiting in a hospital bed that should go to somebody who needs a hospital bed, but because there's nowhere else to go, we call those people ALC, or those beds, not people, those beds ALC, the real people in those beds, alternate level of care. They're just waiting. And the median wait time from hospital to long-term care admission, the median is 142 days. So you can imagine that's an awful long time to sit in the hospital. There are only 3 long-term care homes serving this area right now for 357 beds. 2 to 3 beds come up a month. Again, if you're waiting, you can imagine how long it would take to get into a long-term care home today. So our proposal, as part of this bed call from the Ministry of Long-Term Care, is to develop a full campus of care. And the campus of care is important because it's anchored by a long-term care home. The long-term care home will be 192 beds, but the campus that it will be part of, or form part of, includes other seniors' apartments and a health hub, or a seniors hub, which will have adult day services, some primary care and clinic space. We're just working with the Ontario Health Team in the hospital right now around that, and community space for programs and socialization. And why is that important? Because the research on campuses, and the ministry is specifically requesting campuses, is that they can actually prevent admission to long-term care, keep people out of long-term care, and keep those long-term care beds for people who really need them. We know that through adult day services or adult day programs, we can provide long-term care level services, and then the resident goes home to their home and to their family. And I think if you ask most people, they do want to age in place and they would like to stay in their homes. In the other seniors housing, the seniors apartments, we can also provide long-term care level services. Again, harnessing the strength out of that long-term care home and the supports that are there, provide those services and keep people in the seniors apartment well cared for and supported, socially engaged, and using the various services that are on the campus. And would be available. I think the other interesting thing about a campus too is that it doesn't stop at the lot line. Its services can go out into the community, and it can serve the community. People can come on the campus for exercise programs, for peer-to-peer support programs, for social programs. One of the interesting things that I would like to do is develop the community gardens, because nutrition is so important. And in our butterfly home, when we get to that point, I'll talk to you about how we actually prepare the food and make the food and serve the food as though you're living in your own household. The living classroom, we have a letter of support from Georgian College. They're very keen on this. We will be providing the various levels of programs. I don't want to just say PSW, but RPN and other education programs right on the site. And if you come and take that program, you will already have an offer of employment extended to you, and it's a really wonderful way to transition right from your education program right into employment, and certainly on our side to have students who have done their in-class training, their practicum in the home, resident, they're already part of us, they're already part of the family. It's a tremendous opportunity. Partnerships and community relationships. I just had a wonderful conversation today with Debbie, from the Executive Director from the Dufferin County Cultural Resource Circle, and I'm going to be meeting with her further tonight, and we're talking about how we can work together to serve the Indigenous communities of this area as well, through the campus and through the long-term care offering. It will also be a research and innovation hub. We currently are engaged in a number of pieces of research. We've got, we work with a team from Western University, and when I talk about the butterfly, the eyes of the world are on those projects right now, particularly the bespoke or the purpose-built butterfly homes. There is not a single one in Canada right now. We're building the first one in Hamilton, and there is a lot of attention around that, and that attention will be here as well, because we will be building a butterfly home. So again, just quickly, the benefits, there'll be approximately 300 plus jobs. We support seniors to be healthy and independent. We also serve the community. We work closely with the hospitals. We don't want to duplicate services. We don't want to be standalone segment of the health system. We want to be fully integrated. We will work closely and be full partners of the Ontario Health Team as the senior care partner. So around the innovation then, the Campus of Care, I've spoken to that. Building design, so long-term care typically is built in a sort of a box formation, 32-bed home areas. Nobody eats their dinner every day in a dining room with 31 other people. Nobody has every single meal served restaurant style from a servery, you know, fully plated. We're doing this entirely different. We've created households of smaller size households where the dining rooms are smaller, where the social space or the common space is smaller, where there's more opportunity to actually live like a family. And in fact, that building design is what is required to support the butterfly model. And that's our next point, the models of care. So butterfly began with Dementia Care Matters in the UK. It's now, they've transformed a little bit into Meaningful Care Matters. You'll see more homes beginning to sign on around it. It's a completely different approach. Long-term care can be very task-oriented. We're under a very prescriptive act called the Long-Term Care Homes Act, and that particular act forces you to really objectify people. There's a lot of documentation, a lot of boxes that are ticked, and sometimes we forget that it's a person. This we really, through a very, very, very detailed training program with our staff, we really learn how to care for people in a very human, dignified way. We don't call our staff. They're selected in different ways. They're called family members, and they eat with the residents. They use the same washrooms as the residents. We have no nursing stations. We live in smaller households, and they support the resident where they're at in their journey. If it's 1944, we live in 1944. If it's 1962, we live in 1962. The Seniors Hub, again, we're offering up to 10,000 square feet for that hub, which will be the primary care space, adult day services, community supports and service space, and also the opportunity the campus brings to form those social capital and connections, both inside or on and off the campus. So this is what a butterfly design campus looks like. Very, very different from a traditional long-term care home. Those fingers, or sometimes people tell me they look like baseball mitts, are actually the small households. And those small households have their own dining room. Again, they have their own vibrancy. Sometimes they're specific to cultural groups, other times not, but you can see the hub there, the green piece in the middle, and then over on the other side at the top of the slide is the other seniors housing. You can see that a campus is connected. It's a full continuum of care. We do not want segments of care. We want a full continuous movement throughout the campus. Again, I spoke about the culture shift, about really looking at people as human, in a very human and dignified way, engaging in meaningful interactions and engagement, and it's a high use of emotional intelligence to do this. It is a flat hierarchy, so staff are much more engaged. We have lower absenteeism, lower turnover of staff, because it's not that traditional hierarchy where the charge nurse runs the show, and then everybody else is junior to that. In fact, in our butterfly home area, the PSW is the home action team leader. There still is a nurse there, but there is a PSW that leads the team. So this is what we used to look like. This was a fully renovated home area in one of our homes. We completely redecorated, put new flooring in, but very beige. And this is what we went to in our butterfly home area. Every resident has their own front door. We work with their families typically to choose the front door, and they select their own door. And sometimes it's the door that they remember from their childhood home or their home when they were raising their families. We have a vicar's door. We have a barn door for one resident, and that's how they assist them in recognizing their room. So every door is different. You can see the colors. The colors are in segments. They're very vibrant. The colors and the segments mean something. And this is one of our residents with his wife, and you can see the stuff of life. We call it the stuff of life. The home areas are very full. And this is just a little sitting nook at the end of one of our corridors. So if you think back to that beige and look at where we are now, nothing is artificial. Those plants are real. That door, people are able to go out to natural outdoor areas. We don't put people into courtyards where it's almost like a prison yard. You need access to natural outdoor areas so you can see the school children coming home from school or hear the church bell or see the buses go by. That's very important. And then this is just one of our lounges that used to just be completely beige before, and there's all sorts going on. I want to tell you a little bit about the outcomes just very quickly. I know we're almost out of time here. We started a year ago in this culture transformation. Our rate of use of very harmful medications called antipsychotic medications was 57.9%. At the end of this, in December, we were at 8.2%. Everybody said, Jill, taking all those medications, lifting that brain fog on people, you're going to have violence, you're going to have it's just going to be pandemonium. We do not have a single responsive behavior. We have 0 behaviors. In fact, we do not put behaviors on care plans. We only use strength-based care plans because you're not a behavior, you're a person. We have 15% less pain, we have 0 weight loss, and we have 0 use of supplements. These are costs to the healthcare system, but more than that, these are about human beings and providing a dignified quality opportunity for people to live. That's what the butterfly does differently. No restraints. The colors actually, if you know you live in the pink, people tend to stay in the pink. It's very, very interesting. We're doing a lot of research around that right now. This is our sports wall. Everything you can touch, take off, take with you, whatever. And then this is our first butterfly home. It was built in 2003. You can see it looks like it's from that era, but inside it's all those colors. And our home in Brampton, and this is our home in London. It will be our next accredited butterfly home. And then this is Emmanuel. He's 104 years old, and he lives with his dog in our butterfly home. And Matthew?
Thank you very much to allow us to come and present to council and to the public. We are at an interesting time here in the province of Ontario because the province has issued a significant RFP for bed licenses to allow long-term care facilities to be built. This hasn't happened in 10-plus years. And as a result of that, we have a very, very unique opportunity, and that's why we're before the council here, to ensure that we could put forward a robust reply to the RFP. What I mean by a robust reply to the RFP is that we have to ensure that we have conveyed and spoken with and had the ability to interact with our municipal partners to ensure that we will have a site that will become ready as quick as possible following due process, of course, which will allow for these beds to be created in the earliest possible date. As a result, we've been working on this application, as many of you are aware, for over a year and a half, and we've been working with the staff here in Orangeville and want to make a public declaration. They've been very wonderful to work with, and we are really excited about going forward with the application we have presented to the town at this point in time. We're hoping to get before council here before the summer recess. We respectfully request at this point in time that the town consider giving us a resolution of support or a letter of support endorsing that they are supportive of a long-term care coming here to Orangeville, and that they will try and work with us as the proponents to expedite the production of the said long-term care so can serve the community. And finally, that we will have some form of assurance that we will be able to work along with the town and get the necessary capacity or the allocation of capacity so this can all happen. So this is our ask of council. We respectfully submit that through you, Your Worship, the Mayor.
Very good. Thank you. I know you've been working on this for quite some time, and I personally know that we need additional long-term care beds in southern Dufferin County. I know that we're working towards that, and I believe that council is supportive of your application, and that we'll be working towards that. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and very quickly, I know that we have a hefty agenda this evening. I wanted to thank our presenters for your information this evening. Thank you for the detail. For those of us who have connections to all the above, you know, parents with dementia, those that are, of course, aged, who, of course, have been also maybe forced to relocate, desperately needed in our region. I also like the idea of the campus of care and the butterfly model. I'm quite familiar with some of the work that you've done, and again, in my other background, which is in post-secondary education, I love the integration and the opportunity for prospective employment, and also great to have the connection with the DCCRC and our Aboriginal community, too. I would certainly put a motion forward for a letter of support from my seat here this evening.
All right, I will second that. Any further comment from councilors? Can we have a vote on that? All in favor? Okay, we will provide that to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to make a note. Before we get started on our next delegation, which will be David Nairn. David, if you could come up. But I just want to make a note that there was a couple of declarations of pecuniary direct or indirect pecuniary interest conflicts that were given to town council prior to the meeting. One of them is from Councillor Post, and I'll just read it. I work a contract position with Headwaters Communities in Action. Two of the items on this list are also linked to this organization, so Councillor Post has declared a conflict there. And then also from Councillor Peters, he has a direct family member, is the president of the Orangeville Senior Center, and a direct family member is a board member and paying member of the Moto Nordic Ski Club. Both of those organizations are part of our agenda tonight. So thank you, councillors, for declaring those conflicts. Moving along, 10.2, Mr. Nairn. Sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the opportunity to come and address you just for very briefly, just for a couple of moments. I know you have a super busy agenda. Just to remind Council that Theatre Orangeville enjoys a very special relationship with the town of Orangeville through management contracts that we have to manage the Opera House and to provide the deliverables for Orangeville tourism. And we're super excited at Theatre Orangeville because we have a new general manager, someone who will have the direct responsibility for maintaining that relationship, and will be of course, working with senior town staff, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Osmond, and all of their great staff to move forward a great partnership. So it is with great joy in my heart that I introduce you to Sharon Aliff.
Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council. As David said, we're only going to take a minute of your time. I just wanted to introduce myself. I am Sharon Aliff, and I have lived here my whole life. I was born and raised here. I went to Mono Amaranth Public School. I went to ODSS. I commuted to Humber and Etobicoke, and have made my career here. I have a young family. We own a home here in town. I am obviously very passionate about the theater and the arts community. I've been a very active member of the arts and culture community in this town for the last decade, and have a particularly keen interest in making the arts accessible and inclusive and diverse. So I am really looking forward to the many partnerships that will come through that. So thank you for having us, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Very good. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, David. All the best. Good luck in your new position. Thank you. Okay, 10.3, Mr. Bruce Blears, President, Amaranth Lions Club. Mr. Blears. Before you get into your topic for tonight, I also wanted to thank Mr. Blears and his wife Jane. They're proponents of the Be a Donor campaign have done wonderful work. I see Bruce has got his green ribbon on for the Be a Donor campaign. I know without their hard work in this area, it wouldn't have been so successful, so thank you for all the hard work you do in that. And tonight you're here to talk about Lions Park and I guess your dog guides event. Sir.
Councilors, Orangeville employees, ladies and gentlemen, I brought along a fellow Lion tonight, Jay Uderkirk, and he brought his stepson's guide dog, who is an autistic dog, and maybe Jay could tell some of the benefits of this dog because it's right up the alley to what I was going to speak about for tonight. So I'll let Jay say a couple of words.
Hi.
Oh, it's Pokey, by the way, the dog.
Yeah. This is Pokey over here. Pokey's been with us for nearly a year now. Last year we reinitiated.
You can speak right into the mic there because the folks outside are having a tough time hearing.
We initiated the Walk for Dog Guides here in Orangeville again because I guess it was discontinued for a period. But Carissa, my girlfriend, she applied for the dog about 3 or 4 years ago. She went on the waiting list. We were called to get the dog. We went into the dog guides facility down in Etobicoke, I believe.
Oakville.
Thank you, in Oakville. And for 10 days, we were trained on how to handle the dog. Since the dog has come home and he sleeps with my stepson, McKinley, he's been a great addition to the home for security purposes as Mac is a bit of a flight risk and he can be tethered to the dog. So they're a great addition to families that can use the extra support as far as safety concerns or sleeping and even textiles and stuff like that. It's been a great addition. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, we've only got 5 minutes. So on Sunday, May the 31st, our Lions Club's organizing our annual Walk for Dog Guides, and hopefully it'll be at Lions Park on Diane Drive. Now, last year we raised just over $10,000 at the walk, and dog guides, they train 7 types of dogs. The autism dog is only one of them, and they're provided free to people that need them. Of course, they have to apply, and there's like a 2-week course where the people are trained to handle the dog. So I'm requesting that the town waive the $75 rental fee for the park on that morning. We only use it for a couple hours, and our Lions, we invite the council and everyone else to come and attend our walk, and you don't have to have a dog. It's kind of a short walk, less than 2 kilometers around the subdivision. So we appreciate your time over this minor fee, but it saves our club the money because all the money we raise goes to the dog guides, so that'll give them an extra $75.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Blair's. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship, through you, Mr. Blair's. I had the privilege last year of joining you during your walk. I didn't have a dog with me, but I saw several families there with their dogs. There was great participation. It was a joyful event, and the walk looked very successful. So I'm in full favor of putting forward a motion to waive the $75. I think it is a very, very good thing that you do, and I really appreciate having been participated last year, and hopefully I can join you again this year.
Okay, Deputy Mayor McIntosh is seconding this. Without further ado, unless there's further comment, we'll vote. All in favor? Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. All the best. All right, 10.4. Nancy Freitas wishes to talk about parking. Nancy, are you here tonight? Last call, Nancy Freitas. Okay, moving along to 10.5. We have Syed Armagam Ali with limoguy.ca. Sir. And if you can talk directly into the microphone, sir, so the folks out in the hallway can hear you.
All right.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon, Mr. Mayor, and councillors here. We are a limo company in business for last 10 years, and due to recent situation in taxi industry in town of Orangeville, we've been approached by local businesses, public, as well as drivers, operators of taxi business in Orangeville, and asked to come in, step forward and give some input of our experience, what can we help them and what can we suggest. So based on information provided to us, means limo guy, we have put in place a few points which I emailed to a few of the councillors here, and as well as Mr. Mayor, because it was a very short time for us to get prepared. I just want to bring it to your attention and to the public. The most important point is council engage all stakeholders, not just only public or taxi business owners. To us, in our current model, in limo guy model, we are running buses and stretch limos and small limos and airport limos. What we found out, the most important person in the whole equation is the driver. The guy who wakes up 3 o'clock in the morning and takes the passengers to airport, or the guy who left his family any given time of the day and look after other people's family. So he's a frontline soldier to us. Their input is the most important in the whole industry, because the way that technology is involved in transportation industry, like in terms of Uber and different technology companies, the people, they are in the business for 20, 25 years as a taxi driver and owner or operator, they are kind of getting pushed back. Simple, to our knowledge, is cheapest option is not always the right option. Cheapest option means, in terms of transportation, we have seen and we've been told there are a lot of private drivers. Private drivers are the community members, they're driving other people, but they are not commercially insured. Which brings me to the point of commercially insured vehicles are very hard to be on the road nowadays, because insurance companies are not renewing insurance of limo or taxi industry just because of they don't have a big pool anymore. Their pool is being taken by the technology industries. So smaller the pool is, the bigger the chances are they're going to be paying to cover the incidents, and they're raising the prices, or sometimes they're not even renewing the insurances. In model of our current model as a limo guy, we do have a big concern about the safety and security of not just the driver, but also passenger and also on the road people. So what we come up with the solution is we have two-way live dash cam option. We call it LG tracking or limo guy tracking. We have a website, lgtracking.com. So what we do is we are doing continuous recording of people inside the taxi, or even the driver inside the taxi, as well as on the road. So if there is an incident inside or outside, we can go back in the recording and we can find out what happened. Not only that, we have a live streaming of that incident. So for example, if there is a shock, there is an impact, or there is a speeding, or there is there's different triggers. If any of the trigger go on, it sends a small video clip of 20 seconds to the person who is looking after dispatch office. So what I'm trying to explain is that is another idea of protecting the community by having that cloud option available to bylaw officer, and they can give an answer to particular event or particular question or particular complaint. So that is something which we are enjoying right now, and we definitely will request Councillor Town of Orangeville to consider. In our opinion, not everybody uses the technology. There are some senior citizens and some old school people still in the community. They like to go with a regular taxi, making a phone call, booking their taxi, and kind of connect to the people, connect to the driver, connect to the industry. So there's a big demand of those still around. And not least, we will recommend Town of Orangeville to give immediate attention for the situation at the moment in Town of Orangeville. I've been told there is only 3 or 4 taxis are on the road. So for the same size of town, we expect to have like 41 or 42 taxis on the road. Based on our knowledge and our experience in city of Toronto, in city of Caledon, in city of Ingersoll, Ontario, and city of London, Ontario, we are able to help. We can definitely be able to give a right direction, what we are using right now, but in the same time, all the stakeholders, including the drivers and including the local businesses, should be contacted in this regard. And if there is any questions, I'm here to help you.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. I don't disagree with much of what you said. We're taking information from all stakeholders, and I'm sure that town staff will reach out to you at the appropriate time. Councillors, any questions for Mr. Ali? Thank you, sir. Thank you. All the best. Next delegation, Ricky Singh, Kalakab. Mr. Singh, are you here?
Thank you. My presentation. Who's our tech guy? Good evening, and thank you for having me here tonight. My name's Ricky. I'm the GM of Kalakab and Orangeville Taxi. And tonight we're here just to discuss some points that we've been facing lately. First, the current situation of the taxi industry, save our business from completely going out of business, proposed changes required. I did see the new laws, the options that came out tonight. Discuss the rideshare companies, advice or help from the committee. Currently, we only have 3 Orangeville taxis on the road. Usually we have more than 15, but since last week, only 3 taxis on the road. I'll get to that shortly. It's having a huge impact on the town of Orangeville right now. The business growth is negative. Maintenance cost, extremely high. And our app, Orange Call a Cab, was a huge success in its first week. But then again, we only have 3 taxis on the road right now. Loyalty, we have some drivers who have been working for this company for more than 25 years. And right now they're sitting at home. And I'll get to that why. The people running this industry in Orangeville have been in the industry for more than 30 years. The old taxi companies which we took over in 2003 were going in a loss, that were almost going bankrupt, but we took over, well, my family, and they turned this business around. And I still remember them working long hours when I was a little kid. And many drivers who have been working with us for more than 15 years, they're sitting at home, and I think some are here tonight. Clarification required. I want to come back to this slide after. What happened, I'll come back to this after as well. Now, discussed last meeting, I did promise you guys that our app will be up and running. It is up and running right now on App Store and the Play Store. These are just some of the screenshots you can see. And we launched it last month Right now, we have 300 users signed up from Orangeville. Now, keep this in mind, we did not advertise. Nobody knows that we have the app. Only when they call, they find out. Orangeville, radio, newspapers, we're supposed to put the ad up this Monday, but we had to stop it. I had to call JP on Friday, I believe, because of certain issues that happened. We'll get to those. Customers were extremely happy. They were having everything in the app, pretty much what other rideshare companies have. We had the same options. And we're working on adding some more to it, which will give the access to the town if we get that far, which Uber probably won't give you guys. In this app, we did invest a lot of money into it. Our website, new website, callmycab.ca, is up and running. And with this, talking about TNC, everything can happen. The last speaker that was here was talking about technology. Our app, our system is all prepared. History, ride, fare estimates, scheduling, everything can happen on this app on the phone. Coming to the ride-sharing companies, in the last 2 years, the companies that, not Orangeville, this was a province-wide, I think a global issue which happened. One of the issues that we faced is somebody had to get a taxi driver's license or drive a taxi. The first thing which we ask, sir, do you have a 3-year driving experience? That's the first question which is asked by the insurance companies. Uber, a man who yet has to learn how to get to Brampton from Orangeville, is driving Uber. They've only been in the country for less than 2 months. No questions asked. He has a license, Uber approves it. I mean, this is a huge hit, which the drivers, not only Orangeville, this is happening all over Canada and globally, right? And if something is wrong with our taxi, if something, which we can't really control and permit, or some issue which we're working on trying to get, an immediate action is taken against us right away. Not even a 1-minute delay is, sorry, I'm not complaining to you guys, but that's reality. That's what's been happening lately, right? And other thing, Montgomery Village, Avalon, and few other retirement homes in Orangeville, Uber does not really give service to them, just to let you guys know. And I wish I recorded the video that day. An Uber driver came to one of the retirement homes to pick up a customer, but he rejected. Why? Because she had a wheelchair in her hand. And he clearly looked at her, oh, screw this, cancel, and boom, he's gone. The last speaker also brought this up. Those customers have an emotional bond with the Orangeville taxi drivers. They know our names. Now, when they call, they'll sometimes ask, can I get Ricky, can I get Joe, can I get Steve, or whoever it may be, right? Why? Because we help them. It's not just about the fare, but sometimes it's just the emotional connection which is there, and they need that help, and they cannot really use the smartphones or the apps to book the rides, right? And a taxi driver licensed by the town of Orangeville, that's good. Criminal records are done, which is good. Monopoly, we don't really have any monopoly. For the last 2 years at least, and even before that, there was no monopoly. Anybody can come and operate. But the question I ask you guys is, if you have any questions for this, how come nobody is picking up the available permits? Has anybody come in to take the permits? I don't think anybody has. I'm not really sure what the last speaker was talking about, but guys, coming here, I mean, I don't know if you guys, last week of Feb, what happened was our insurance was supposed to renew. Now, last year, the insurance per car was $4,700 per vehicle. This is fleet insurance, not driver, fleet. $4,700 per car. This year, we were given a quotation of more than $12,000 per car for fleet insurance. Then we spoke with the insurance company. We went back and forth with them for 2 weeks straight, and they told us, you know what, okay, we're working on something, we'll insure you guys. So we were still trying to get fleet insurance. But when we looked at the budget and the quotation they provided was even higher, we were not able to do it. Then we spoke with our broker. He said, there's something else I can do. So he went back to the office, spoke with a few companies, came up with another idea. Here's what I can do, he said. You guys keep the plates, but the insurance must be on the driver's name. So the driver has to own the vehicle. The car has to be on his name in order to get the insurance. And that quotation was roughly $6,000 to $7,000 per car, which is reasonable. We understand the $1,000 increase, fine. But this we got, so on March 2nd was Monday, March 1 was Sunday. On February 29th or 28th, the Friday, we got this quotation from them. On Saturday and Sunday, they were closed. On Monday, when we finally spoke with a few drivers that, hey, this is the issue that's happening, I mean, trying to understand. Some were understood, some did not, they were a little mad, pissed off, but that's not something we completely have a control over. Before our drivers could make it to the office here to put their cars on their names, the bylaw officer took away our plates. Now, I understand they also got to follow the rules, but, I mean...
If the cars aren't insured, sir, they're not going to be our responsibility. So-
No, I'm not asking for responsibility. The plates were taken away, right? They were canceled on the spot. On Monday...
Because of non-insurance.
Yeah, but what could have happened was giving us a day or two, maybe 1 week. We were not driving the cars. The plates could have been taken off and told us, hey, get the case license, we'll give the plates back. And this entire week, there were only 3 taxis on the road. Who suffered? My company definitely suffered. We went into a huge loss. Same drivers were driving like 12, 14 hours as much as they could every day. But the Orangeville residents, especially the seniors, they suffered the most. From hospital, going back and forth, and if I was to open my app here, you can see all the rides which were canceled. Like, we get all the report, and I can give you guys the access. Instead of canceling, I mean, we've been in this town for more than 15 years, right? I mean, a thought could have been given, hey, let's give them a week to prepare at least, because that's the week we got the insurance rates.
There's no, timeline on insurance. It's either you have it or you don't have it, right? And that's part of this problem, is,
so
we cannot
I understand
extend
you
the
took-
plate if there's no insurance on the vehicle, and I...
No, that's fine. You guys took the plates, but instead of canceling it, they could have been suspended, right? At least we could have got the insurance that weekend, giving you guys all the paperwork required. But that didn't hurt our business, but it hurt the entire town, right? And a lot of customers are blaming us, and they're complaining to us. Anyways, moving forward for that, we would definitely request to make an appeal to get certain number of plates back. We do want to give the service to a town. Our new app is working great. If you haven't used it, the name of the app is Orange Call a Cab. That's the driver app. It's working great. Like, trust me on this, right? And we hope to have this up. This is still running, but we have no cars available. So hopefully by next week, we'll definitely put the appeal in tomorrow. And if you guys can at least give us certain plates back, that would be great.
Can I ask the town clerk a question? We're open for business on cab licenses right now, or are we not?
Yeah, with respect to the licenses at hand that are being referred to, certainly if the individual was to produce the insurance within a stipulated time frame, then certainly those plates can be returned.
Right. So just to make it clear to everybody, we haven't suspended taxi operations in the town of Orangeville. This was a requirement for the bylaw staff to act on a liability issue on insurance. And we're, as the town clerk has just said, we're willing to reissue those plates under the as long as you comply with all bylaw.
Of course.
We do recognize that our bylaw needs updating. We are working on that, and we're going to discuss it further tonight. So we know the taxi industry has been hit hard with a number of issues. The insurance, ride sharing. Clearly, it's a difficult industry sector to operate in, and we understand that. So we're hoping collectively, including stakeholders, and as Mr. Ali said, we want to bring everybody into the discussion, that we're going to find the right solution going forward. But it's very unfortunate that the precipitous ending of your insurance, there was no other option for us to at that point.
To make an appeal for the plates, and I just opened up the Uber app on my phone. There are 7 cars operating in this town right now.
How many?
Uber. 7.
7. Yeah.
Monday night.
Yeah,
when we had no Uber, the taxi, we only had 3 cars on the road. Right now, if we get the place back, we will have our 2-3 cars on the road. Who's really making the money? No one is. This is hurting the full-time drivers. So I request the town to come up with something. I mean, I'm not against Uber drivers. That's the future. Fine.
We've been listening, and we understand there needs to be a leveling of the playing field because it has been not level. We understand that, and we're going to work towards a resolution that's good for you and your drivers, right? I mean, I know there's people with livelihoods being in jeopardy right now. So
many of them came out tonight. I mean, I think they'll put their points forward.
There's a couple more delegations here to speak tonight, Mr. Singh. So just to keep things rolling, we're trying to keep to a 5-minute segment for each speaker. Do you have anything further to add at this moment?
No, I won't take more time, but thank you for listening, and I'm sure you guys will come up with something which benefits the entire town of Orangeville. And so we can make the appeal tomorrow, I'm guessing, hopefully for the...
I see no reason that the town clerk will not receive applications for taxi licenses tomorrow.
Sounds great.
Correct?
Actually, we'll issue the necessary correspondence for you to file the paperwork that you're referring to if you want to look at having your plates reinstated.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you, Karen. Okay. All right, thank you, guys.
So, Mr. Singh, thank you for your time tonight, and we're going to move on to our next speaker, delegation, James Betts. Mr. Betts, are you here? Welcome, Mr. Betts. And if you could speak clearly into the microphone so the folks in the hallway can hear you, sir.
Okay, I'm James Betts, and I've been a dispatcher for 10 years, so I probably know more of it than any of yous,
right,
or the public, and even a lot of the drivers.
Right.
And just listening to Ricky, I got to say one thing. Our license were pulled. And one of the reasons was because to put it in the driver's name, then it would not be part of the company.
Right.
So
this is the insurance company that's imposing this on, on you.
But no, this is part of your bylaw.
Oh, our bylaw.
Yeah, that says if it is in the driver's name, then it is not part of the company. He is the company.
Okay.
Basically. So that's why we cannot go ahead with the insurance. But also, personally, I do believe we should go with option 2. I think we should forget about the bylaw. Just leave it alone. Let it go for whether it be 4 or 5 years. Just open it up and say, let's see what happens if we open it up.
Are you saying repeal the bylaw altogether, Mr. Betts?
Altogether.
What
Now,
about
that is my personal opinion. It might not be the company's, but that is mine. And again, as I say, I have just as much to lose as anybody because I'm a dispatcher, and I believe the way of the future is the apps. So chances are, as a dispatcher, those jobs are going to disappear.
Right.
So, but personally, I still say get rid of the bylaw and start all over. And
you think the market will take care of itself?
I do.
Yeah.
I honestly do. As I say, you allowed Uber in, whether it be Uber, Lyft, anybody with an app nowadays basically can come in and drive now.
Right.
So what is the difference about just scrapping the whole bylaw and saying, okay, and if it doesn't work, we really have lost nothing because you can go and upgrade, and that could take, 2 or 3 years, 4 years.
Right.
But like we are in an industrial or technology situation right now, and it is advancing far faster than what we can keep up with as a bylaw. So let it go for a while as far as I'm concerned, and then in the future, come back to it if need be. And that's about all I got to say.
Okay, before you leave, you've been an expert dispatcher for 10 years. Counselors, do you have any questions of Mr. Betts that you might want to ask him? Seeing none, thank you, sir, for your input tonight. Appreciate it. All the best.
And we've had cabs out there 14 at a time.
Right.
And sometimes I have 10 of them that are out of town, and they wonder why people
There's no
can't get a
service.
cab.
Right.
We have no way of predicting.
Yes, sir. All right, next delegation, Mr. Stephen Reed. Sir. Mr. Reed, how are you tonight?
Okay, can you hear me? I'm kind of along the same theme as Jim, where you've allowed Uber to come in here. I was informed that you actually requested, or your predecessors requested them to show up. I don't have any evidence of that. But going one step further, going backwards to problems in the county, I'm wondering if you would entertain the possibility of, instead of creating an Orangeville bylaw, make it a county-wide transportation bylaw. That would include bus transport, wheel-trans, that could operate regular bus routes. The same vehicles could be used on bus routes for regular times and used as a taxi app or meter regulated in off-route areas, off prime time. But it would be a council operation, not a company operation. Your town buses are, yeah, they are a company individual, but they are still a town of Orangeville operation, not registered as an outside company. That was one of the things I thought of. I started with Mr. Sador in 2003. I've been in the same company basically ever since, but I've been bounced from owner to owner and office to office. I'd like to see some sort of a level situation. If I have to pay $100 for a records check and $30 for a license, I would like to know that the Lyft drivers, Uber drivers, and whoever else have to do the same thing.
Right.
If they're going to be allowed to operate without the restrictions, without the regulations, then I don't feel I should be required to have the same thing, to have those certificates for when they don't. And I would like to say that anybody doing service pickup for the school board has to have a records check, has to have an abstract.
Right.
There are certain regulations. That's with the school board that is outside of your control. So maybe, as Jim says, open it up and let the individual operations that require it, the individual customers, determine what is necessary.
Right.
I didn't really have a lot of time to prepare. I wasn't even sure I even wanted to sit here in front of this microphone tonight, so that's about all I got to say on it.
Okay.
And if we do get an Uber insurance, does that mean we get an opportunity to get our plate back?
Madam Clerk, what do you mean by Uber insurance?
Well, Uber has some sort of a special insurance. So these guys are only operating on their own personal insurance during regular
That's right.
driving.
So when they're driving, the higher level of insurance kicks in.
They have a special insurance when they're on the app.
Yeah.
That's by their organization.
We have no control over the insurance industry, so I would hope that that'll be something that the taxi industry maybe can lobby their insurance companies to change the way they deal with insurance. I don't know how Uber's managed to put that through their insurance, but they have. It's a difficult thing to compete with when the insurance cost is a fraction of what you're paying. So we understand that.
I'm wondering if it might be related to rent-a-car. if you go and rent a car and you use your credit card to rent the car, you can opt to have their insurance on the car. You don't need your own.
Correct.
If you want to rent that car and pay cash or check or whatever, you have to have your own viable insurance policy behind you.
All right.
And they have other options too, but.
Right. Okay.
That's all for now. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Reed. Thank you very much for coming tonight. I appreciate your comments. All right, so we're finished our presentations and petitions and delegations for tonight. We're going to move into statutory public meeting. This is a discussion about 60 and 62 Broadway. So I'm just going to outline the procedure to be followed. We're going to ask anyone who speaks or wants to be notified of further consideration of this topic by council to complete the notification lists on the table outside. Note that any information collected on the notification list will be a matter of public record. There's a presentation tonight by Town Planning Division staff. Larissa Russell is with us tonight. Also a presentation by Deborah Walker on behalf of the applicant MHBC Planning Limited. Ms. Russell, how are you tonight?
Good, thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, and everyone in attendance. This is a public meeting being held in accordance with the Planning Act. We are here to obtain information and comments from the community as well as present the applications to you. A decision or recommendation is not being made today. The information report that has been provided as part of the agenda package provides further details on the application, and the applicant is also in attendance to present and answer any questions you may have. The town has received applications for an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment that were submitted by two numbered companies, care of MHBC Planning. The applications were received on August 29th, 2019, and the proposal is to permit a 5-story mixed-use development. This is a location map of the subject lands. They're located on the southeast corner of Broadway and Wellington Street, comprised of 2 parcels of land with a total area of approximately 0.63 hectares or 1.56 acres. They're municipally known as 60 and 62 Broadway. They currently contain 2 dwellings that are being used for commercial purposes. This is an aerial view of the subject lands. As you can see, the existing buildings on the subject lands. You can also see the surrounding area context. Along Broadway, there's a mix of residential and commercial uses. And to the south of the property is the Mill Creek, as well as a subdivision, mainly consisting of singles and townhouse dwellings. This is the proposed site plan, which consists of a 5-story mixed-use building containing 60 2-bedroom units. The applicant will get into some further details about it. They're proposing about 800 square meters of retail along the ground floor, fronting onto Wellington and Broadway. Shh. Is that better? So the applicant is proposing an official plan amendment. The official plan right now designates the property as service commercial and open space. The service commercial designation permits a range of commercial uses, including automotive uses and all of the other uses that are listed here. The open space conservation designation basically protects the natural features, in this case, the creek. The official plan also has an overlay policy, a specific area policy on the subject lands, which removes some of the permissions, including automotive uses, such as automobile parking depots, automobile dealerships, and used car lots. This is to reinforce the area as the easterly gateway into the town and into the downtown heritage district, and the town's continued effort to beautify this area. The proposed amendment submitted by the applicant aims to redesignate the property to Central Business District. As you can see in this map, the property is adjacent to the Central Business District area. So this would be an expansion of that designation. And the designation would allow residential uses on the upper floors and eliminate some of the unwanted uses based on that site-specific policy to remove some of those automotive unwanted uses. The zoning bylaw amendment is also being proposed. The current zoning of the property is service commercial, or C3, which also permits a range of uses, again, including some of those automotive uses as well as other retail-type uses. The applicant is also proposing to amend the zoning bylaw to Central Business District with a holding symbol. And similar to the official plan amendment, this would permit residential uses on the upper floors and also remove some of those automotive type uses and be in keeping with the existing Central Business District that is adjacent to the property. A holding symbol would also be applied, and that would be removed when servicing allocation was confirmed and satisfactory site plan was submitted and approved. We've done an agency and department circulation. We've received comments back from several of the agencies and internal departments. No concerns have been expressed by a lot of the agencies, as you can see here. We've also received some specific comments. Canada Post and the school boards have commented requesting standard conditions be imposed on the development. Orangeville Hydro and Telecom Rogers have just noted their existing infrastructure that's in the area. We've also received specific comments from the Credit Valley Conservation Authority and our environmental department that requests further details on some of the items outlined here, including the development limits, hydrogeology, water balance, and low-impact development features. The building department has requested an OBC data matrix and the location of fire hydrants and fire routes. Since preparing this presentation, we've also received comments from the Orangeville BIA, which noted their support of the application and listed no concerns. We've also heard from Heritage Orangeville, which presented concerns with the height of the building, given that the Heritage District is adjacent to this site. We've also received a number of public comments. We've received some positive response to the proposed green roof, expansion of the Central Business District, and a mix of the residential and commercial uses. We've also received concerns regarding the height, traffic, impacts on pedestrian safety, and questioning the need for additional retail, and if sufficient parking is being proposed on the site. In terms of next steps, we're here today for the statutory public meeting. The Planning Division will review the comments received through the public consultation and circulation for applicant response. Then we'll prepare a recommendation report for a council decision. And lastly, the applicant will pursue further required approvals pending a decision on the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments. Thank you.
So after Ms. Walker's presentation, council will be invited to ask questions, and then after that, we'll have comments from the public.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you. Hi, good evening. Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. I'm happy here to introduce the project. We're very excited about it. It is on a obviously a very important corner of Broadway, and the owners are represented two numbered companies that own both 60 and 62 Broadway, and the primary owners are the Lavasato family. Ed and Ted Lavasato are actually builders, and they will be directly involved in the building of this development. And as Larissa has explained very well, that the proposed, it will be a proposed mixed-use building with retail on the ground floor and then the residential units above. I won't spend too much time on this, as Larissa's gone through quite a bit of the surrounding land uses, et cetera. Just to say that about 37% of the site at the rear is a wooded valley, and it's intended to be preserved and enhanced as part of the application, and that will also be addressed in a lot more detail through site plan approval. The previous uses at 62 Broadway was an old lumber store. Various uses have been there over the years. The current owners have cleaned up the site considerably, and also Phase 2 environmental site assessment has been completed as part of the application submission, and that report has indicated that some of the soil exceeds the provincial standards, and therefore soil remediation, site remediation will need to be completed as part of the process. So we understand that will be conditional of any approvals going forward for the redevelopment. Also, one single detached house is situated on 60 Broadway with a large accessory building used for small engine repair and sales. The house was evaluated by a qualified heritage planner as part of the submission, and that assessment that was completed had confirmed that the house had limited cultural value or interest, and that has been submitted as well with the application for review. The proposed development is the main aspect on this was getting an architect, and there was a lot of thought put into this to make sure that what was presented to you would fit in with the general character of Orangeville, and an architect by the name of John Beresford, who has received many awards for his heritage design, was retained by the team. And the objective, again, was to complement the downtown while creating a significant gateway feature at this prominent corner. So the intention is to replace the existing service retail space with more modern retail space. So actually, the same amount of retail space that exists today will be replaced with the new development. And in addition, it would provide many, obviously, additional residential uses right in the downtown, in the upper stories. There will be an outdoor amenity area in the south and east sides of the building. At least that's what has been provided in the site plan that's conceptual at this point, and many of those details will be worked out as we go further through the process. This is an elevation facing Broadway, and two existing driveways onto Broadway will be removed. The main access will be off of Wellington, and the building design follows the natural slope of the land while maintaining a consistent roof line, as you can see. So the higher portion of the building is along the east side of the building, and then towards the west, right at the corner of Wellington, will be the height will be reduced. This is an elevation facing Wellington Street. So as I mentioned, the primary residential entrance will be off of Wellington, and a sidewalk will be constructed along Wellington as well, up to Broadway. I won't spend a lot of time on the proposed amendments because I think staff have addressed it very well. just that really the proposed amendments simply extend the Central Business District designation and the zoning on the lands. And the lands to the west and the north are already currently designated and zoned Central Business District. There are no additional exceptions requested as part of the proposed official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw. So it's strictly to allow for the Central Business District designation and zoning. Let's skip over this because she dealt with a lot of that. So the site plan, there intends to be a green roof, and as I mentioned, an outdoor amenity area, if I can, right in this area here. There would be a vegetative buffer at the top of the bank. So there was a stable top of bank study that was completed to determine where the stable top of bank is, and there would be a vegetative buffer along the top of bank, and then you would have the valley that would be protected. There is some discussion about enhancing that corridor, and we're continuing meeting with the CBC. We've been meeting with them for about 2 years now on this development. And there was some comments that we have received that I just wanted to generally go over. I know it's a little early in the process, but I wanted to maybe respond to some of the comments that we've heard to date on this submission. So the height of the building, the zoning currently permits a maximum height of 23 meters, and what is being proposed is 21 meters. So we're actually less than what the current zoning is, and as well as what the Central Business District zoning would permit. We recognize that the current zoning also requires greater setbacks from Broadway, so that would be 3.5 meters, where we are proposing 1 meter setback. And the property to the east would be half of the building height, so that would be approximately 10.5 meters. So we are working with the architect. We've provided those comments to the architect, and we are looking at different ways that maybe the building could at least address some of those concerns with respect to how that gets transitioned to the east and as well towards Broadway. Just going through these. Mill Creek, the impact on Mill Creek was, I think, raised by one of the residents. And as we mentioned, we've been having many meetings with the CVC. There's been a geotechnical and a long-term stable top of bank studies have been submitted with the application. The functional servicing report also addresses erosion settlement control. And there's, as I mentioned, some of those details will also be addressed further as part of this process. And then again, as we get more into the details of the development proposal through site plan control. We are looking at possible enhancements to the Mill Creek Valley corridor to improve the existing corridor, and possibly even looking at providing more coniferous plantings in the valley to improve visual screening from the residents during winter months that front onto Front Street. In terms of traffic impact, I believe that was a concern as well that was raised. A traffic impact study has been completed and has been submitted with the applications. And it had concluded that there would be, in a worst case scenario, a total new trip generation forecast would be 30 during the weekday AM, 48 new trip generations in weekday in the afternoon, and 58 on Saturdays in the peak time. So in an absolute worst case scenario, you would be looking at less than 1 car per minute that would be generated by the proposal, and that's based on a worst case scenario. Sightlines have been determined to be adequate for safe operations. Also, the traffic engineers, through the review, confirmed no additional turn lanes were warranted. There was another comment about parking too close to the Mill Creek within the hazard lands. So parking exists currently, 17 spaces currently exist within the hazard lands. The proposal would reduce the parking spaces in the area to 15, in that particular area to 15 spaces, and these would be surplus to what is required by the zoning. So the parking that would be provided by this proposal would be 95 parking spaces. 80 are required by the zoning, so there would be a surplus of the 15 parking spaces. And in terms of additional retail, as I mentioned earlier, 8,500 square feet of retail is leased currently, so this would essentially replace what is there today. There was also a comment about construction impact, and that would be addressed as part of site plan control. So that is the extent of my presentation.
Oh, yes, Your Worship, through you to Ms. Walker. Thank you for your presentation. I'm over here. You hear a voice? Yeah, I'm over here. Thank you. I was going to ask you about a traffic study. That has been something that I've had people reach out to me about and that corner is definitely a bit of a challenge, the way that road goes. My other question is, I see you have the site plan still up here. And you mentioned one way in and out only off of Wellington Street, closing the two current entranceways off of Broadway. If I look way far to the east, does it not allow you to have a roadway coming in and out over there? Like if I was to, okay, so you're talking about removing the two current in and out of Broadway. I'm looking at your proposal here. I'm concerned the fact that you're saying only one way in and out is off of Wellington. I'm asking the way the current development that you're proposing, is there a way of also having, not just off of Wellington, but also having either just like a throughway out so that if people that are parked at the back can go up along the side of the building and out onto Broadway or in? Is there enough room in there?
We haven't looked at that. Usually on a main road like Broadway, and we can have our traffic engineers look at it, but normally the idea is typically encouraged to reduce the amount of accesses on a major road like Broadway and to have it more on the collector roads. But we can certainly take that back.
If you could look at that, because my concern is, and from the people that have reached out to me, this extra activity around Wellington Street is concerning to them. And your proposed entranceway isn't going to line up with Armstrong Street, am I correct?
It's about 15 meters south of Armstrong.
So that's quite you've got a curving coming in here, you've got a road here, and this coming here. It's quite congested. That's why I was thinking in the overall picture, even if we had an out from behind your building onto Broadway, out and right turn only, at least it's maybe alleviating some people from coming out of there, going on to Wellington and trying to make a right or left. That's just my thought.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Ms. Walker, thank you for your presentation. I'm over here. Question and a comment. The comment is, I'm appreciative to hear the land remediation, knowing some of the businesses that currently exist in the proximity to the creek. I think that particular initiative is certainly very much warranted, and glad that is on your radar. One of the questions that certainly has come up amongst council at various times in our current term is affordable housing. And has there been a determination on the units that you're proposing? Will they be condominiums or will they be rental, or a combination of both? Or has there been even thought of that?
Jim, could you come up and speak to the microphone, please?
I have a rather loud voice, so I don't often need the microphone. Just to respond to that, two things. The objective is to create attainable housing. I won't say affordable, okay, but attainable, that would be considered at the mid-range of the market now, to do that and to make sure that works. We anticipate it will be condominium, but that probably means that half of them will be rented. My understanding of how that operation works now is very, very many people would buy a unit, not really want to occupy it now. It's going to be geared to an aging population, active seniors, and they would probably, a lot of them would probably be rented.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification.
Okay, Deputy Mayor McIntosh.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is more of a comment than a question. You say that the report says 62 units.
That's based on the conceptual site plan,
Okay.
yeah.
And only 63 parking spaces.
No, there's 90 parking spaces.
Yeah, some for the commercial though, right?
Yeah, there's some, yeah.
There's only 63 designated for the
Yes, yes.
units. It just seems low to me, but just a comment.
Okay, councilors, any further commentary? All right. Well, that being said, Ms. Walker, maybe if you could take a seat. We're going to invite questions or comments from the public now. Perhaps if you can stay to field some of those questions. All right, does anybody from the public wish to come up and ask questions of town staff or the planning consultant? Ms. Addy.
Mayor, members of council, I want to clarify right off the bat that I'm here representing myself as a resident in the circulation area and not as a representative of Heritage Orangeville. So I wanted to be clear about that right at the start. Thank you for this opportunity to express some concerns that I have, and I have written my comments, and quite a few of our residents have signed and given email addresses if that can be used in lieu of signing the notification list. I will pass this on to the clerk when I'm finished. As neighbors and residents, we appreciate the opportunity that redevelopment of this property offers. The building at 62 Broadway is in no way contributing or complementing or enhancing the adjacent historic downtown and residential area. And this is an area that we as residents are very proud to live in, and we certainly feel very strongly about any development being a benefit and an enhancement of what already exists. The building is not compatible in setback, scale, or style with the adjacent areas. And the proposed mixed-use building, incorporating main-level commercial with residential units above, is very much in keeping with the buildings found in the downtown Heritage Conservation District. So a change to the central business district zoning would permit this complementary type of new building that would be compatible with the surrounding area. As well, the addition of affordable, accessible, and perhaps even senior-friendly residences which allow people to live, walk, and shop downtown is a bonus for the adjoining residential area as well as the businesses downtown. More people using the downtown area both day and night increases security for everyone and adds to the vibrancy of our award-winning downtown. However, we strongly voice our concerns with the scale of this particular development proposal. The height of the building proposed would make it the tallest building fronting on Broadway. Its location at the gateway to our largely intact Victorian-era downtown would make it an imposing visual landmark that would not necessarily enhance and highlight the heritage character of the area. Applying the 12-meter height limit, however, which exists in the Downtown Heritage Conservation District, would keep the building more in scale with the area. We also draw your attention to certain parts of the official plan, which although this property is not in the Heritage Conservation District, the official plan directs council that adjoining properties to the district should be in keeping with the heritage character of those areas. It's great to hear that CBCA is on top of this. We knew that they would be, but we would be interested because we have, as owners, have been part of the rehabilitation of Mill Creek, and we would very much like to see and be party to the comments that CBCA has given on that property. We understand that a traffic study has been done, but express our concerns with that single entrance onto Wellington Street. It's a narrow street reflecting the historic right-of-way of only 36 feet, which is not even pavement, that's the whole full right-of-way, which the drivable portion of the road is further narrowed during the wintertime when there's snow buildup on the road and on the banks. Making moving up and down Wellington Street, somewhat problematic, especially in the wintertime. As well, at the stop sign at Wellington and Broadway, because we as residents use it frequently, there's often time of day queuing at that stop sign, backing up past Armstrong Street, south down Wellington Street. So we are concerned, even though some numbers have been given, that this would exacerbate that queuing problem at the Wellington Street stop sign at Broadway. Perhaps scaling back the size of the building would in some way mitigate some effects of extra traffic coming out onto Wellington Street. Although from our point of view, dumping more traffic onto Wellington Street is the less preferable option, and we would prefer to see an access onto Broadway instead. The development does provide one parking space per unit approximately, with some visitor parking, and as Deputy Mayor has already noted, this seems highly inadequate, and we're concerned with spillover into municipal lots that are hopefully being used for businesses, as well as some adjacent commercial properties. I'm sure that they're concerned about parking, even after hours parking in their business parking lots. So perhaps that is something for council to consider as well. Thank you for considering these issues. As I said, I will pass this on to the clerk, and as I said, we are excited that maybe there will be a development here that will be an enhancement of the neighborhood, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public wish to comment on this development? Please speak in the microphone, Ms. Snell.
My name is Lisa Snell, and I am a shop owner on Broadway that's very close to this. My concern is when people are moving down Broadway, now that the shops will be right at the sidewalk frontage, that they won't realize that the parking for the retail is in the back. They will go past the unit and they will pull into Sanderson Sports or Instaplus Printing, and our parking lots will be affected. Also, again, the size of the building is another concern because Sanderson Sports is a one-story building. I have a building next to it which is 2 stories, and we will not see anything other than a 5-story building beside us. And right now we do have a view and we do have sun, and I'm worried that that will be totally affected by, the west sun will be affected. That's all I have to say. I don't oppose the development. I oppose the height and the parking because I don't think it's adequate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments from the public? Okay. Your name, please, ma'am?
Kale McMillan. And myself and my husband, Jeff Lemon, own the bicycle shop that's adjacent to the property for the proposed development. I think that we echo a lot of the comments that have been already made tonight. We're supportive of kind of enhancing that area for sure and the mixed use. I think in terms of residents, our comments have already been shared. Just in terms of business owners, I just want to note that because our access is kind of opposite to where the access would be for the access for the building, just that we'd like to know from the development or the developers how they would plan to kind of mitigate any business impact that would have to our business moving forwards in construction and once it's developed.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other comments from the public on this matter? Hi.
Hello, I'm Jerry McCleary. I'm a longtime resident of Orangeville,
and also I live on Mill Street. Getting out, I'm only allowed to head down Wellington and trying to make, as they've said already, a right-hand turn there. Sometimes you do end up having to wait quite some time. There's also the issue, the hill. I don't see that on the drawing, whether the hill is accurately portrayed. I could be wrong, but there is 4 lanes there already, and there's school children crossing that road, and there are already 2 school crossing guards there. And if there's more cars, it's going to be more dangerous, especially in the wintertime. The only other real question I have is, what are the size of the parking spots themselves? Like, I think it was Mr. McIntosh, you brought up the number, but I also know that outside of some of the other new areas, the parking spots are too small. What is the measurement that they have allowed? Is it a small, I don't know, Vega, but we like to drive trucks. And that's really one of my also big concerns. How would a fire truck ever get into that building if anything should ever happen? Okay? Those are serious considerations that the council needs to take into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you very much. First time ever doing this. I've been living in Orangeville for about 7 years.
Your name, please?
Oh, sorry, Sue Watkins.
Thank
I
you.
live off of, on Armstrong Street. I work at the hospital here, so I'm in and out every single day, going either up Broadway or down Broadway. There's a lot of people here that seem to be talking about the problems of driving and navigating through this town. Going the other way, there seems to be a lot of talk about going onto Wellington from Broadway. If we look at coming up Broadway, going west, trying to turn onto Wellington and then onto Armstrong Street, which is my route when I come home, mostly usually at night. Sometimes that's backed up, crazy backed up there, so that you're waiting quite a bit on that little hill. I would hate to have a standard car and be trying to navigate that system. But also, if you're coming, let's say, from the Zayre's grocery store, I think that's 3rd, and you're trying to get onto Broadway to turn onto Wellington, to turn onto Armstrong, I've waited there for long periods of time because some people want to turn left, some people are wanting to turn right, and I'm very worried about the driving.
Mm-hmm.
And like the former lady said, what's going to happen if you need to get ambulances and fire trucks down that road and there's people lined up turning? That's all. So I'm like everybody else. I'm not against this. I have some major concerns about the driving and navigating through that system. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for your comments. All right, ma'am, step right up. Please give us your name.
Hello, my name is Margie Morey, and I live on Amanda Street, which is just around the corner there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, like the others were speaking, I'm excited about a new venture on that corner. It's been a real eyesore for us. We've seen nothing but, automobiles and tires, and it's just been a mess. So it's been, when the CVC put the, Credit Valley put the new section in, it really did, upgrade it. And so it's wonderful to see a new building there. I have a couple of concerns, and again, I'm like the others, I really am concerned about the height. Our home looks right over to that building, and all of a sudden we will lose all of our sunlight later on in the day, and it just seems like, it just doesn't seem to fit in with our neighborhood. That's one of the biggest things, that kind of a height. I think the idea of the apartments and some more businesses, I like that, but I am really concerned about the height. And I think, again, the transportation is a huge issue. This winter, as in every winter, when you come around that corner, and if I'm coming from Broadway and I'm driving towards the bridge there, you need to stop if somebody else is coming around. There is no such thing as both of us traveling. If I'm coming around that corner and somebody's coming from Wellington, it's only polite to stop because the snowbanks are, it's a very narrow corner there. And then you have people coming out of the bicycle shop, which is another great heritage-looking building. It fits the area. And again, with Armstrong. And just to get out, because the traffic is so backed up in Armstrong sometimes, they shoot out. So unless you, like, we know that we have to go really slow there, but if we add another exit of more cars there, I'm just really concerned about those two things. And I thank you for your time.
Right. Thank you for your comments. Any other members of the public wish to speak to this matter? Okay. Counselors, we're all good? Okay, so we have a recommendation that report ISPL 2020-005, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications, file OPZ 619 by 257584 Ontario Inc. and 2659546 Ontario Inc., 60 and 62 Broadway be received by council as information at the public meeting on March the 9th, 2020. May I have a motion? Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Post. All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right, now, moving on to, looking for a break, are we?
Oh, no, sorry.
No?
No, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
what did you want to
No,
say?
that actually, I was just going to, if you don't mind, we'll just remind the public if they want to be notified about when this matter comes back to council to make sure that they do sign the sheet with your contact information. Thank you.
Right. Okay, so folks, let's have a 5-minute break here, and then we'll get back to talk about taxis again. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Okay, so moving on to item 12, we have staff reports. This is 12.1, taxi and ride-sharing services in the town, and then we're going to talk about options. So, does any of our town staff want to talk to this tonight? Yeah, Madam Clerk. Just give a recap quickly, yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, I'll just do a brief overview. Council may recall that we had received a delegation at the end of last year requesting us to look at the taxi bylaw to incorporate whether we would look at including TNC's transportation network companies in the regulatory regime. Also, as part of the regulatory bylaw review work plan, we actually dedicated resources to bring up the review of that bylaw this year. So this is the first step in bringing the information to council. The report outlines basically 4 options, but I will stress, of course, council can always deviate from those options and add your own options in, or modify the options that are before you. So the 4 options include simply just receiving the report, which would be making no changes to the current regulatory framework. And the next option presented is with respect to what I will term as deregulation. So that would involve the repealing of the bylaw, and therefore you wouldn't license taxi and limousine drivers, companies, and owners within the town of Orangeville. The third option considers bringing transportation network companies into the regulatory regime, and at the same time also will look at how we can level the playing field between the transportation network companies and the taxi and limousine industry. The fourth one looks at making changes to the current taxi bylaw by looking at taking some of the regulatory framework obligations away to make the industry more, more competitive as it relates with Uber. But it doesn't look at bringing Uber, Lyft, or those other transportation network companies into the regulatory regime. So in the report, we also speak to what's happening in other municipalities, what has occurred. We do present the challenge with respect to our current size and our proximity to the GTA. Also, through the process, we would have to engage, if council were to look at including transportation network companies into the regulatory regime, of course, we would have to reach out to those companies and involve them in the public consultation process. The report in a few of the options, I think 3 of the options, recommend going to a public meeting with whatever we are considering to get feedback from industry stakeholders and the public. I know that actually in speaking to Chris today, I think it was the County of Brant, am I correct? Is actually considering looking at including transportation network companies into the regulatory regime, and they're currently in the process, from what I understand, of doing a survey and going through the public engagement piece. So,
County of Brant?
County of Brant.
Brant? Okay.
Yes. So certainly as part of that, the public meeting process, staff are also would like to engage the public through a survey in a similar type of means that perhaps the County of Brant is doing, and we would work with our communications division to ensure that we had a fulsome survey that could garner that feedback. And then I guess the final thing that I'll just wrap up with is that I guess we try to just indicate that those municipalities that are smaller and perhaps not in close proximity to the GTA do face different challenges than those within the GTA area with respect to engaging and I guess getting on side the transportation network companies into a regulatory framework. And we did include some information with respect to the municipalities in Dufferin County in terms of where they are at. As you may have noted, there is only one municipality in Dufferin County that actually has a regulatory bylaw in place as it relates to taxis and limousines, and it predominantly just mirrors what we have here in Orangeville. And we do understand that some of those municipalities are looking to see what Orangeville decides to do before they move forward. And other than that, we're certainly here to answer any questions you may have. But again, we stress that this is just the preliminary step, and the next step would be to move to a public meeting based on one of those options or an option that council presents.
Right. Thank you. Deputy Mayor McIntosh.
Thank you, Worship. This is also for the clerk. What would some of the challenges be if we did indeed go to option 2? Which would be no bylaw.
Okay, well, we stressed there, I guess, some of the considerations that you would want to take into account would involve the fact that there then is no requirement for a safety of the vehicle to be completed, no requirement to ensure that there is insurance in place with respect to the vehicle itself, and then also there is no requirement for a police check to be completed as part of a process because you don't have that regulatory framework in place.
Okay, Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Madam Clerk. I see in option 2 and option 4, you have the public meeting be held on April 20th. However, option 3, which is where I'm leaning towards, it's saying a public meeting be held in June. Can you tell me the reason for the difference of those dates?
Of course. Yes, I'd be happy to tell you the reason. The reason is because the option 2 simply is, all we're presenting is that we plan to deregulate, and there is no preparation work required in order to do that, because we aren't presenting any bylaw to the public. We would be repealing the current bylaw. With respect to option 4, we are making amendments to the current bylaw, so there's not as much work involved with respect to that review compared to option 3, which involves looking at incorporating transportation network companies, which is we're going to require further research on our part and more work with respect to developing the draft provisions as it relates to a bylaw. So we require additional time in order to complete that process.
Okay, just to further that, I know the rest of my councillors would probably like to input in that, but I'm going to put a motion on the floor to accept option 3. And then we'll go further discussion.
Right. Okay. Councillor Taylor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So I'd like to be a little bit provocative to start off and say that, to me, option 1 would be a disappointment to everyone that's here. I don't see the do nothing as an option at all, so I'd prefer that we don't discuss that. Option 2, to me, makes no sense either. Candidly and honestly, I don't think the taxi industry in our town has demonstrated the ability to operate on their own without some sort of rules in place. We've had numerous complaints throughout our time on council from people about the taxi cab industry, and to just leave it as the wild, wild west, to me, is not responsible on our part. So to me, it goes to option 3 or option 4, of which at this time, I guess I'd like to have the debate. But whatever we do, I'd like to have the public meeting as part of it, and I think that's very appropriate that you brought that forward. So,
thank you. Councillor Post.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Sherwood, at this time, I can't support your motion, and one reason for that is when I look at the options, option number 4 to me is the right way to go, and I'll tell you why. I've done some research and some looking into it, and just recently in the city of Orillia, they looked at adding Uber and Lyft into their regulatory framework, and Uber instantly put a blackout on their town and didn't allow Uber to operate because they didn't want to fall into that framework. And again, it comes to being a similar size municipality, and I fear that we would put our Uber business in jeopardy if we went ahead and did that. So I would right now lean towards option 4 for that reason. I think that, again, I echo the statements of Councillor Taylor that I think that it's necessary to have some public engagement from the stakeholders, from the drivers that are existing right now with the taxi industry, but I think option 4 is the way to go.
Okay. I think there's some history there with Aurelia, if I'm not mistaken. I think that at one point, Aurelia shunned Uber, and then has now asked them to come back, and Uber's not so sure they want to come back. So there's a little bit more to the story, as I understand it, but yeah. However, the difference between option 3 and option 4 is trying to level the playing field and trying to bring the ride-sharing companies into some sort of regulatory control. So that's the one that I'm in favor of. And unless there's any further discussion by councillors, Councillor Sherwood has a motion on the floor I would like to second it, and then we'll have a vote on that, and if that doesn't fly, then we'll move on. But let's go with Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going through the options, I agree somewhat with Councillor Taylor. We do need to do something. My rationale on number 2 is a little bit different. I think if it's a full repeal, if and when we need something to be put back into place and we're starting from scratch, that it's just going to delay the process. It's going to have too many hurdles, too many differences of opinion. So I'm also between 3 and 4. To me, I see starting with 3 as a good option. If and when we get pushback or the public meeting results in some things we didn't anticipate and the TNCs versus cab debate leads us in a certain direction, 4 is still on the table. If we go right to 4 and miss the opportunity to bring the TNCs to the table with a similar framework, we may not get that opportunity back. So I'm leaning towards 3 for that reason.
Right. Okay, any further comment from councillors? So we have a motion there to go with option 3 without any amendment, seconded by myself. So let's call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That motion passes. And just so we make further comment, the town of Orangeville is open for business on issuing taxi licenses, providing that the operator meets the criteria that's in our current bylaw. And to suggest anything otherwise is incorrect. And town council, our town staff have been doing their job in enforcing the bylaw to this point. And we're, again, market forces have created problems for the taxi industry, and we're sorry that those market forces have happened, but they're sort of beyond our control other than what we can try and help with the revamping of this bylaw. And we are working hard towards that, and we hope in the next 3-4 months that we'll have a good document that everybody, all stakeholders will be supportive. Right, okay. Just reminding on the vote, Councillors Taylor and Councillor Post were in opposition on the vote. Okay, very good. Let's move on to 12.3, Ontario Musicians Cooperative. And this, I'm sorry, did I miss one? What happened? Oh, there, my apologies. 12.2, on Orangeville Hydro. This is a preparation for annual election of board of directors. In our, did you want to talk to this? Okay, let's go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would, further building on the conversation we had during closed, I would make a motion to refer this back to staff to investigate further the shareholder agreement regarding terms and elections of members.
I would second. Councillor Sherwood, second. Fine. Any further comment on this deferral and back to staff? No? All in favor? Okay, great. Moving on to 12.3. This is a recommendation that a report dated March the 9th regarding Ontario Musicians Cooperative be received. Is there any, there's no report or commentary here, is there, on this? We're just receiving this? Right. So what this report says is that staff will be delegated the authority to extend the memorandum of understanding for further 3 years, up to including 2023 as warranted by the program's success in its initial year in Orangeville. This is kind of an exciting thing for the Orangeville Business Improvement Area. It's a contract with the Ontario Musicians Cooperative to provide more opportunities for emerging artists and for more busking, I guess, in our downtown core. So I think it's fantastic and fully in support of it. Any further comment? Motion from Councillor Andrews. Seconder, Deputy Mayor McIntosh, all in favor? Thank you. All right, 12.4, this is terms of reference. This is, Councillor Post, do you want to talk to this? This is your, I think, yes, right ahead.
Thank you very much. So as the public may be aware, at the beginning of this term of council, we made the decision to join the Accessibility and the Seniors Advisory Committee into one, as has been done with the ministry in Ontario, and that's worked extremely well. However, for the County of Dufferin, they had put forward at the same time their terms of reference and asked for applicants for their accessibility committee. Unfortunately, at the time, they did not have enough members register, so they weren't able to form an accessibility committee, and under the AODA standards, it is a requirement. So our accessibility committee is extremely strong and extremely vibrant, and the county reached out to us and asked if we would take it on, and if we would add some county members onto our committee and work in collaboration with them to house their accessibility committee. Our committee was extremely happy to do so, but at that risk, we also didn't want to compromise any of the issues that we were discussing about the older adults in our community and the seniors. So we wanted, the County of Dufferin has an extremely vibrant aging community committee that they've been working with, and they've just done a very comprehensive report about an age-friendly, creating an age-friendly community. So we've decided to work, as long as council will approve it, in collaboration with the county and merge the two committees separately. So the accessibility will be a joint venture between the county and Orangeville, and the seniors committee will also be a joint venture between Orangeville and the county. And we've proposed this to both of the respective committees, and they're extremely excited about the opportunity. There was no concerns at all expressed by either committee, and Orangeville will play an extremely active role in the county's age-friendly committee, and the county will play an active role in ours. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them, but it's going to be a great initiative moving forward that will address the issues from both sides.
Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Post, could you perhaps describe the membership changes and leadership for each committee, both at the county and the town level?
Councillor Post.
So the proposed new joint accessibility committee would change the membership from a maximum of 9 to 13. So there would be 3 to a maximum of 5 members added from the county to represent the areas that are outside of Orangeville. And we will be adding a 2 to 3, I believe, to the county's seniors committee. An Orangeville representative will remain the chair of the accessibility committee. And currently the seniors committee with the county is chaired by a member of the county. It's actually county staff who chairs it right now. And at this point, we don't see any change to that. The one thing that will be in addition is that we have proposed to combine the two committees to have a joint meeting twice annually to make sure that we're covering all the areas that need to be covered and to make sure that we're not duplicating anything.
Thank you. Councillor Sherwood.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Post. Councillor Post, with the addition of the representatives, are we doing a shift amongst all committee members, or are we going to be advertising and looking for citizens to apply to fill these positions? I'm just trying to understand that.
Sorry. Councillor Post.
So there will be an advertisement to fill a couple of extra seniors positions on the county committee, and the county will be taking care of advertising for Dufferin County members to be added onto our committee. They did have a couple of members, but a couple of applicants, but unfortunately at the time of membership, they didn't have enough to make up the 50%, the above 50% people with accessibility issues as it's mandated. So there will be an advertisement going out. So there's an opportunity for members of Orangeville Seniors Committee or community to join the newly formed committee, and vice versa with the county members to join Orangeville. It is also important to note that any of the items for the Orangeville Accessibility Committee, because the budget is housed under Orangeville and it's Orangeville money that's being used for it, any of the items that have a monetary value to them are only going to be voted on by Orangeville members. If there is a county initiative that requires funding, that will come from the county.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor McIntosh.
Thank you, Your Worship. I supported this at the county level. I also support it here. It's great we're starting to work together with the county. We get a lot of things done that way. So just my comments. Thanks.
Great. Any other comments? Councillor Post, did you want to make a motion on this? Okay. Seconded by Deputy Mayor McIntosh. All in favor? Thank you. All right. Moving on. So Two of our members have, they have a pecuniary or indirect interest in this, so they're recusing themselves from the meeting at this point. This is on 12.5 community grant allocations for 2020. So in the agenda, there's a list of a number of community organizations who have applied for. Town staff has reviewed these and come back with a recommendation for the amount shown here on our agenda. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you very much. I want to thank staff for a great report as far as summarizing everything and providing great detail in a short form without us having to really go through all those applications. I really appreciate it. Very well done. I am at this time, I'm very pleased to see that we are able to reach almost all of the asks for the local communities. So I'm going to be putting forward a motion for option 3, but maybe with an amendment or possibly an option 4. So I am not in support of any funds going to the Nordic Ski Club, and I would like to see that amount of the $62.50 returned back to a pool, if you know what I mean, so that it would be available if some type of unpredictable incident happens throughout the year where all of a sudden we've got like another raptor situation. So I'm asking that the Nordic Ski Club, only because it isn't directly in Orangeville, it is located in Mono, so I would hope that they would ask for funds with Mono, which I'm sure they have. To me, the fact is they came in asking the most and quite significant. Not that I don't support theirs, and I know that Orangeville residents are there. I'm trying to cut back, say let's give it all back. So I don't know how we would do that, Madam Clerk. Am I putting through a new option, or am I asking for an amendment to option 3 to put that as per the list, everything approved except the Nordic ski, and instead of giving the Nordic, so that we don't have this unfavorable variance of 150, I would like to see us put $6,100 back into a holding pot for any incidentals.
Okay, let's have some further comments, and then we'll have a motion. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I would completely disagree with that, in all due respect. So I'll declare my bias, and then I'll give my reasons. So I was a former president of the Mono Nordic Ski Club. I did that for quite a few years. And the Mono Nordic Ski Club does a lot of great things for our community. Yes, they're just beyond our borders. Large majority of the members that use the Mono Nordic Ski Club are Orangeville residents. So there's been studies done of who that is. The very fact that they're outside of our borders is unfortunate, but it would be a wise thing to do to invest in something that is recreational and within the geographic propinquity of our town. Mono and the other residents from around Dufferin County also share our facilities, and we want them to do that, from the libraries to the rec centers and whatnot. If you read through what is being done, it actually speaks to what we're trying to do as a community with accessibility and whatnot. So the Mono Nordic Ski Club has done a great job. They just recently got a grant, was able to get a storage building put in. That facility is first class. It's an absolute jewel, and I think that our town should be supporting that. So, with all due respect, Councillor Sherwood, I won't support your motion. I'll fall on the sword for the Mono Nordic Ski Club, and what I would like to do is just approve as we have now. And just to natter on a bit longer, I've seen this with other councils where we nickel and dime, nickel and dime, nickel and dime. Staff has done a great job of trying to figure out where these monies should go. I would like to accept as is and be done with the conversation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much. As we've had the opportunity to listen to both Councillor Sherwood and Taylor and truly respect both views, I will support your particular recommendation, Councillor Taylor, because of the fact, the amount of work that our team here has done. Very detailed. It's provided us with some clarity on all the organizations who are going to benefit, and I think it ends up helping us to make the right decision.
Okay, so Councillor Sherwood, you wanted to make a motion. Can you word it for us, please? Sorry.
Yes, so my motion is to approve option 3, excluding the funds to the Nordic Ski Club, and have the remaining $6,100 be left in a community grant pool for future use if required. Does that make sense, Madam Treasurer? That's my motion.
Okay. The problem is now you're going to need a seconder. And I'm not prepared to. Anybody else here? Okay, so that unfortunately dies at this moment. So, Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept as per staff as laid out tonight.
Seconder, Councillor Andrews. Okay, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Councillor Sherwood is in opposition, but the motion passes. Thank you. Yes, please. Thank you. Moving on to 12.6, welcome back, councillors. Community grant motion was passed as it is on this agenda. Option 3, which was as laid out here on our agenda. Okay, 12.6, 5 Henry Street. This is a residential demolition permit application. Any councillors wish to comment on this? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have spoken to residents on the street that live fairly close by. There was excitement that this change would be being made, so therefore I just like to make the motion to receive and that we move forward.
Right. Any further comments, councillors? Motion by Councillor Taylor to accept the recommendation, seconded by Deputy Mayor McIntosh. All in favor? Thank you. 12.7, drainage issues regarding 15 Sherbourne Street. Recommendation that report ISPW 2020-001 corresponds to drainage issues at 15 Sherbourne Street be received. May I have a motion to receive this report? Deputy Mayor McIntosh, seconded by Councillor Taylor. Any comments from council? All in favor? Thank you. All right, McCannell Avenue, Rolling Hills Drive guardrail pricing. This is report ISTD 2020-006 regarding McCannell Avenue, Rolling Hills Drive guardrail pricing. This is recommendation to receive the report. Any further comment from councillors? May I have a motion to receive the report? Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Sherwood. Councillor Taylor.
So if I may, Your Worship, just as clarity, so by receiving it, we're shelving it, right?
Right. We're not acting on, the recommendation I think was just to receive it. Yeah.
And what would, just as mentoring, what would next steps be then? What would we do? We're just going to leave this issue, or what would we do?
Well,
what would we do moving forward?
My personal opinion is we've already agreed to spend some money there to do some corrective measures. I think we need to wait until those are implemented and see how they work out. That's I would not want to spend any more money at that intersection personally. I know you've met with the family and I know there's a tighter connection there perhaps, but that's just my feeling is we've done what we needed to correct the problem. I think spending this money is over the top myself. That's my comment. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. I'm going to be supporting just receiving it. But as far as next steps, Councillor Taylor, what I would think that we could do as staff is ask this to be brought forward in the 2021 budget. That's the only way I would support it moving forward. And that has also given us an opportunity and some time to see if the measures that we're taking have been effective I think that gives Mr. Jones, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you know the time frame as to when we can expect the installation of those other directed signages?
Mr. Jones.
Through your worship to Councillor Sherwood, my understanding is that the signage is in. We're waiting for a bit of frost to come out of the ground and to be frank, to see what the outcome of this evening's discussion is before we move forward. The exact location of where we put the signs, we obviously wouldn't want to put them in a position that would conflict with any potential guide rail at this location.
Okay, thank you.
So just to follow up on that, Councillor Taylor, that's what I would be recommending, that if at this time we're just receiving it, that doesn't give direction to do that, but I would be in favor of it coming towards future budget.
Fair enough. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. I appreciate that. I think that's a viable option, and I will bring that forward with Councillor Post, obviously. I just wanted to offer clarification, Your Worship. You'd mentioned that, I think it was a light comment on your part, but that there was a friendship there, or a personal relationship.
No, that you'd met with them personally.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear
that.
that Councillor Post and I saw a need. We went and visited this family. We've tried to help and do our best. I had not met the family previously. We were just trying to do what we thought was correct. So I just want to clear that up in terms of our relationship, but doing it because we thought it was the right thing to do, and it was our duties as councillors, not because there was a personal connection.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Motion is on the floor. Receive the report. All in favor? Opposed? Councillors Post and Taylor are opposed. Okay. B City Canada. So Orangeville has been, I guess, designated a B City, and there's a number of good reasons. I'm sorry? A B-town, okay. Well, the organization is called B-City, so there you go. But thanks to town staff for putting that application in and for us to be approved as that. Councillor Peters, do you wish to talk to this at all?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff certainly deserve credit, and I appreciate that comment. I also wanted to publicly recognize some of the citizens that contributed to that application. Specifically, Sean and Jean Booth put some effort into this, and they've been big advocates. They met with Sustainable Orangeville, and we hope to have many projects to uphold this designation in the future.
Very good. Okay, so this motion is that staff be authorized to submit the B-City Canada application and designate Orangeville as a B-City, and that Sustainable Orangeville and the town initiate and promote the B-City Canada's mandate in supporting pollinators and bee habitats. Councillor Peters making this motion, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Thank you. All right, we have correspondence received, 13-1, 13-2, 13-3, 13-6, 13-7, 13-6, and 7. So let's, maybe we better go over them one by one. Yeah, there's a lot here. This is 13-1 is Dufferin County interoperable communications cost estimate, and that the report be received. Anybody wish to comment on this? Deputy Mayor McIntosh. Yes, sir.
Yes, just to be clear on this one, we're not supporting it or not supporting it, we're just receiving it?
Correct.
Okay, because there didn't seem to be a lot of support at the county level for this one. That's the reason.
Okay. So you want to make a motion to receive this, Deputy Mayor McIntosh? Seconded by Councillor Taylor. All in favor? Very good. 13-2. This is a recommendation that correspondence from Dufferin Gardens Cooperative Homes regarding drainage issues at 15 Sherbourne Street be received. May I have a motion to receive this? Councillor Taylor, seconded by Deputy Mayor McIntosh. All in favor? 13-3. This is BAA has provided us with a downtown activation pilot project report. Obviously, a lot of work has gone into this. So this is so that other requests made by the BA may be considered as part of the town's tourism strategy going forward, looking for completion of the tourism strategy in September 2020, and that the BIA contact community services staff regarding their request. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much. I know my colleague to my left, those that are watching, she's on my right, is part of the BIA board. And again, I congratulate them for some of the initiatives here. I think that those of us that are tied to economic development, this is a great initiative and certainly will spark, I think, a lot of activity as the warmer weather has arrived and hopefully will be for quite some time. So I certainly support this particular submission.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. So as per the report from our general manager, there is a request here from council. So would the proper procedure be, Madam Clerk, for me to proceed with putting forward a motion? Or are we expecting something further from staff? If they're working with staff, will staff be bringing a report forward?
I guess with respect to the request that was received as it relates to the amendment to the display of merchandise, staff will bring back a bylaw amendment based on this, if council passes the recommendation that is before them this evening. With respect to the other requests contained in the correspondence, we've indicated that the information or the requests of the BIA be added as input into the tourism strategy, and also in the meantime that they work with community services staff with respect to their requests. And if then there is a need for further information to come back to council for approval, then certainly I know that community services will bring that forward, that report.
So at this time, there's no further action required by us?
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Andrews, did you want to speak to us again or not?
No, I'm fine.
You're fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So Councillor Sherwood, you were making a motion to receive this?
Receive it.
Okay. Seconded by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Thank you. Next item, 13.4, is regarding blade signs. Again, a BAA initiative. Recommendation that the correspondence and BAA be received. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. Again, another great initiative that is coming forth. This is something that our task force is really excited about. Most of you were able to come to Roger Brooks' presentation. Again, I'm going to reach out to the clerk to ask if there's a motion that needs to go forward. Predominantly, if I'm looking for the ask, I think for the approval, and I may have to call on the general manager of the BIA to correct me if I'm wrong, but you're seeking approval for the permit process, the pre-approval of the designs for the permit process, to select the pre-approved font styles, and to consider a sign permit fee either be waived or reduced. So I don't know at this time if we're working with staff with that, or do I need to put forward a motion for that?
So perhaps maybe if I'll just provide a bit of clarity, because the ask of the BIA is somewhat different than what is recommended in the actual agenda. So in addition to receiving the correspondence, it is still recommended that the BIA work with Heritage Orangeville, because as part of the approval process, the input of Heritage Orangeville is to be sought. And once we have, I guess, solidified exactly the type of signage, and if Heritage Orangeville does give approval to the signage that's proposed, then the next steps would be evaluated against the criteria in the sign bylaw, and if necessary, if there's any other if there is a building permit required instead of a signed bylaw permit, staff would review all of that, prepare a report, and come back to council with respect to whatever else may be required. At that time, then certainly if council wants to consider the request as it relates to the fees, we will then have an understanding of what those fees are, because right now that it's premature. We do not know what the ask is at this given point in time.
Okay. So you've made a motion to receive this report again, seconded by Councillor Post. All in favor? Thank you. We have a correspondence from Town of Mono regarding single-use plastic bag bylaw. Deputy Mayor McIntosh.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to congratulate the town of Mono. I know there's not a lot of stores in Mono. They're probably this would affect, but the intent is good. I would like to see this council at some point do something similar within the town of Orangeville, but again, in the future, I'd like to see that. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments? Motion to receive? Deputy Mayor McIntosh, second by Councillor Taylor. All in favor? Thank you. 13.6, correspondence from Avery Somerville regarding indoor field facilities. Any further comment from councillors on this? No. It's a motion to receive. Councillor Peters making that motion, seconded by Councillor Post. All in favor? And final one is Dufferin County. This is environmental awareness actions and the recommendations of the following correspondence we received. And we have, I'm sorry, we'll just, okay, tie it all up. Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. For those that didn't make it that far on the agenda, this was in regards to Credit Valley Conservation and the work they do in this area. There's a lot of discussion right now at the provincial level about what conservation authorities will or won't do in the future. There's many municipalities taking one side or another on this issue. I would also encourage citizens and practitioners to have a voice in this debate and offer public feedback to their municipality or the province. There's a lot of good programs that we may lose in this community or across the province. So I would encourage people to just pay attention to this issue in the future.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll have a motion to receive that report as well. 13.7, Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All in favor? All right. Moving on to question period. Anybody in the audience would like to make a comment or ask a question of council? Mr. Shipston. Sir.
Good evening. Evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, staff. I've been involved with Orangeville Taxi for 17 years. I came up to Orangeville in 2001 from the city. My mom was getting ill, subsequently passed away, and I stayed in Orangeville ever since. I've been involved with 3 major corporations. They all downsized me, so I asked a cab driver one day, what does it take to become a cab driver? And it appealed to it appealed to a sense that I didn't want to get downsized again. I've had some pretty good jobs in the past, but it kind of grows on you. It appeals to a sense of free spirit-ness. You don't do the same thing every day. And having said that, though, I've seen the drop in business. I've seen Uber. I'm aware of the technological advancements and everything, but my concern right now is immediate. I no longer have a driver's license due to visual impairment, but I'm still afforded the opportunity to dispatch on a part-time basis. So I'm still involved with the day-to-day goings of the company. My question is, what is the immediate remedy for somebody at the hospital at 2 o'clock in the morning that needs to get home? We've introduced the app from 5 to 5. Generally about 40 or 50 calls in that time period. I was a night dispatcher, and now with the app being in effect, I'm a day dispatcher. But what is the immediate remedy for somebody that needs to get around from Uber might be around at 2 o'clock in the morning, or somebody at the hospital could be calling the 941-8000 number and just getting dead air, which has already happened. There's drunk people on a Friday and Saturday night, or not so much drunk, but people that have, two beers will get you over the limit these days. Sure. What remedy do they have in the immediate future? And going back to the option that was recommended, option 3, I'd like to thank the staff, by the way, for due diligence. I've also done some research in towns like Owen Sound and Aurelia and how they operate in the same population range. But option 3, with the public meeting scheduled for June 20th, what are the people at the Blues and Jazz Festival, for example, going to do? I've met people from all over North America that follow these blues and jazz festivals around, and Orangeville is considered one of the best ones. And I commend the town for that. It's a huge accomplishment. But what are they going to do now when there's 3 cabs on the road and 2 from the other company? Well, hopefully Uber will step in. That sounds weird coming from an Orangeville taxi employee, but somebody's going to have to come in and fill the void.
Well, you're incredibly experienced in these matters, so have you got any magic potion here? Because
Well, unfortunately, I don't, but I'd like to see people, people are wanting to use their own private cars and put the Orangeville taxi roof light on. There are some of them that were here tonight are endeavoring to get their own personal insurance. But, they're not allowed to drive a taxi with their own personal insurance. But.
This has been going on, Mr. Shipson, for a year or so now, the erosion of the number of plates, and it's because of either the vehicles have been substandard, not been able to be safetied, or can't even be driven. In fact, there's some were parked out in a parking lot and we took the plates away because they were parked, or no insurance. So people keep looking to us for some solution.
Now, not as an employee. Disregard my comments as an employee of Orangeville Taxi. Think of me as a disabled, in a couple of ways, citizen of the town.
Right.
I can easily take an ambulance to the hospital, but how would I get back 3 or 4 hours later? Or do I just defer my visit to the hospital until the day shift starts with 3 vehicles?
We're hearing it loud and clear, and we need to address it. We need to change the bylaw. I think we need to open things up a little bit more. There hasn't been enough competition in my mind here in the taxi industry, and that's part of the problem, I think. So, and again, we had the discussion earlier about why we're pushing it till June. We need to, if we're going to pull in and try and regulate Uber in order to try and make a level playing field in this industry, we need to consult with them and bring them into the picture. And that's going to take town staff a little bit of time to do their homework.
I fully understand that, sir. It's just an immediate concern right now. I know a lot of people in town that are PSWs, a lot of nurses, and basically they're just worried for their elderly clientele and the long-term care facilities, and again, the impaired people on the weekend, or actually it doesn't really matter any night of the week really, but I think by not doing something immediately, the company, I guess, the onus is on them. But I just feel like there's a massive void there that...
There is. Well, you called me a couple of days ago, and as we were chatting in your dispatch office...
That's before the insurance was even a concern, though.
And you've got no cars, so I understand your story.
It's just it's an unbelievable situation. I'm not sure. In Owen Sound, for example, the Police Services Board dictates the issuing of licenses and the licensing of drivers and things like that. And, I guess the insurance problem...
The Police Services Board issues the taxi licenses?
Pardon me?
The Police Services Board?
Yeah, the police
issues the taxi licenses?
In Owen Sound, they do.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, and they have a tribunal where if something goes wrong with the driver, they can reprimand them, or Chatham Kent has rewritten their whole bylaw to accommodate basically anybody that wants to drive on a for hire basis. So
I'm hoping that those who are going out on a Friday or Saturday night are going to arrange a designated driver. I hope that's going to be the same
that might be the only
Blues and Jazz. And and there's there is Uber around, I know, and I hope that those who are disadvantaged that need a ride home at 2 in.the morning, that there'll be somebody out there to help.
Yeah, that's our only hope right now, sir. That somebody with Uber decides that Orangeville's big enough for 24-hour coverage, because we had a driver in the first week of the app, and the lady at the hospital couldn't get through. She didn't realize the app was in effect yet. And we had a driver, his head was back at the Fresco Plaza. And
Ready to go.
It was actually a policeman that knocked on his window, and he goes, "Are you guys working tonight?" And the driver said, "Well, we are, but we're on an app system now." And the policeman said, "You know, we've been trying to get in touch with you as well for over an hour. I just happened to see you sitting in the parking lot." And it's stuff like that that really bothers me to the core, being involved with the company for that long.
Yeah.
If I was a newcomer, I'd roll with it, but I take the town of Orangeville very seriously, and I feel that I'm number 2 in seniority, actually, next to Joseph Anthony. And you've already had public input. Anybody that checks the discussion groups, and as soon as so I don't know how much more public input you really want, other than that's already been given. So, yeah, if you want to go straight into, option 3, and the staff recommends the public input, but I think you might be able to do it a little quicker than that, because
it's a regulatory requirement that we have a public meeting on changing the bylaw, and we will do that. But also bringing in these, the ride-sharing companies to try and capture them so that there's a level playing field for the taxi industry, right? I think that was the intent of option 3.
Yeah.
So
that's the void. They're going to be filling the void, but in the absence of the plates that we have now, I'm just thinking of the immediate ramifications.
All right, sir. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Anybody else from the audience that would like to ask a question of council? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to item 15. This is a recommendation that minutes of the following meetings be received by council: BIA, Committee of Adjustment, Heritage Orangeville, Orangeville Accessibility and Seniors Advisory Committee, Orangeville Police Service Board, Sustainable Orangeville, and Transit Task Force. May I have a motion to receive? Deputy Mayor McIntosh, second by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? All right. Seeing that there are no notices, any notices at the meeting? No? Okay. New business? Seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Andrews. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I have 4 quick hits here. And the first, I would like to just thank town staff for providing the announcement for the request for community group for the Soapbox Derby. We hope to have submissions by, I guess, March 20th. The next one I'd like to also recognize is congratulate Doug, Susan, and Michael McCurry for a very successful Mosaic fundraiser that was held on Friday. Councillor Post and I and a few others attended. In fact, a whole bunch of people attended. And what's envisioned is the introduction of their initiative of what is hoped to be a downtown location initiative in the coming months. I guess we'll find a little bit more at some point when hopefully they'll be coming to council about that. The third, I would like to recognize the contributions, the members of council and staff for International Women's Day, which was officially acknowledged yesterday. And I'd just like to thank each one of them for their contributions to our community and our society. And the fourth, this is one that Councillor Post and I have had the opportunity of having discussions. This is pertaining to members of the Parkinson Crescent community, which is in the northwest section of Orangeville. We had the opportunity of speaking with Mr. Jones, so Mr. Jones, I think you hopefully will be able to provide us with a little bit of insight to this particular matter.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Your Worship. When the development began out in the West End around Sarah Properties and Cache Development about 8 years ago, staff were reviewing the designs, and Parkinson Crescent was designated as a minor collector road. And because of the width of the road, the fact that there's a long curve on the road, that there was going to be a park on the road, staff at the time determined that it would be best to prohibit parking on both sides of Parkinson Crescent for its entirety. The development has proceeded through 4 phases of Sarah Properties and a couple of phases of Cache Developments. During that time, there have been deficiencies that the developer needed to fulfill, and one of them was the erection of all of the no parking signs. Unfortunately, some of the no parking signs came up after people had moved in, and some people had an expectation that there would be parking on at least one side of Parkinson Crescent. This has caused some concern in the community, and I did have an opportunity to speak to both Councillor Post and Andrews about this the other day. Staff have looked into it, and things have evolved somewhat since we first looked at it with the various phases of development. And at this point, we are consistent in that we do not want to see parking on either side of Parkinson Crescent around the bend or by the park. We feel that it's important because of the ability of the park cars to block visibility for drivers, and with children in the park, we feel that it would be dangerous to do so. With that said, we feel that it is possible to compromise and permit parking on one side of Parkinson Crescent, basically from the northern boundary of the park along the straight stretch of Parkinson Crescent up to about Drew Brown Boulevard. And if council was amenable to that, then that's what staff would implement, and that's what the revised traffic bylaw would reflect.
Mr. Jones, thank you very much for the opportunity to have dialogue. I know Councillor Post and I received a number of emails, calls, and even a petition too as well. And I also have to compliment the residents of that area. They were diligent, they were professional in their communication, and I think that they ended up providing a realistic option, and I truly appreciate the outcome of this, and I'm hoping that council will certainly agree to it.
So that's going to come up in the next meeting.
Is that correct, Mr. Jones? Will that be coming up, or is that...
Is that something we can vote on tonight? What would you like to do?
Through you, Your Worship, typically this is something that is implemented through the development process, and that only when we brought back the bylaw to amend the traffic bylaw, as we do periodically when new things come up, when new developments come in, we'll approve the location of new stop signs, of new no parking areas. If council passes a motion for this tonight, then when that finally does come back before council, we can simply implement that at the time.
Okay. So I'll put forth a motion for that.
Okay. Councillor Post, any further comment from councillors? Sounds like a good plan to me. All in favor?
Thank you.
Carry on. Thank you. All right. So last item is a number of bylaws. Councillor Sherwood, you wish to speak to one of them, or?
Yes, Your Worship. Have you called on bylaws? Did
Not
you
yet.
Oh, so I have to wait for you to call on bylaws. Because I
All right, so we've got a number of bylaws here that, sorry, Councillor Taylor. Let's have Councillor Taylor, and then go right ahead.
Yes, sorry, Your Worship. I was kind of asleep at the switch here, I guess. But Mr. Nairn was here tonight with our new general manager, and it would behoove me to tell everybody that a week and a half from now, we have a new show opening at Theatre Orangeville, and the town should attend. So it's called Too Close from Home, world premiere, and it's by Allison Lawrence. So hopefully everybody will go. The season this year has been phenomenal. I've really enjoyed it, and hopefully the majority of council and people in Orangeville will attend and support our local theatre. So thank you.
When are they going to put on Rochelle from Moscow to Minsk?
That is random. Thank you.
I just, the Seinfeld reference, folks, so anyway. That show still kills me. Anyway, okay. Let's have a motion that all of these bylaws be read 3 times and finally passed. But Councillor Sherwood wants to talk about it. So
You're right, Your Worship. So now that you've officially called the bylaws,
yes.
Could we do a vote excluding D? Because I'm not in support of D. And I am supportive part of it, but since there is a part in there regarding the rates for the water and the wastewater services, I don't support that part of it. So I'm wondering, can we vote on everything but D?
I don't know. Did we ever? We can do that? We can pull that? Okay.
And also if the clerk could make a note on the spelling that it's a wastewater bill adjustment policy, not police. I looked at that and went, oh, no.
Okay. All right.
But yeah,
Fair
I would
enough.
like...
I don't know what the issue is, but we'll find out. Oh, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess just a question, like, to me, this, maybe it's a learning moment as a new council, but to me, we've already approved this, like, we've gone through it. It feels like it's just going to go.
That's why I was asking.
We're going to, I think it's going to be 6-1, and you just want to do it on principle? Like, that's fine, it seems like
What, can you elaborate what the issue is, though, a little bit? Councillor Sherwood.
I didn't support the recommended water rates.
Oh.
Water and wastewater rates. So I am,
Oh, you're asking to pull that, okay.
I don't want to be a hypocrite or contradict my original vote.
Oh, okay, fair enough. All right. Well, you're going to need a seconder for that. No. You can just pull that?
Yes, a councillor can ask for separation on the vote, so Councillor Sherwood has
okay.
separated out the
Okay.
vote with respect to item D.
Separation, okay, I thought it was deletion, I'm sorry. Separation of the vote, fair enough. Okay, so let's go to the vote on A, B, C, and E. All in favor? Mover and seconder, okay. Let's have Councillor Taylor, Councillor Post on A, B, C, and E. All right, and we're voting again, all in favor? That's 7-0. And then we've got item D here. We need a motion on that one as well. Councillor Post, Councillor Taylor, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, fair enough, Councillor Sherwood. Now a motion to adjourn, please. Deputy Mayor McIntosh, second. Oh, I'm sorry? I did, didn't I? I did. I believe I did. No, Councillor Sherwood was in opposition. Okay, thank you. Okay, we had a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. 10 o'clock. Who was betting on this? Was it?